Milwaukee is a place that I've spent exactly 0 seconds ever thinking about. Sorry to anyone who lives there, but if you'd asked me even a week ago what I knew about Milwaukee, I would have answered that it's there. Not much else besides that. I wasn't even sure what state it was in. So imagine my surprise when I found out Milwaukee used to be the home of one of the best underground metal festivals in the entire country. Milwaukee Metalfest ran from 1987 to 2007, bringing some insane lineups from the underground of metal and hardcore music. One of the few American festivals that would host such extreme bands, Milwaukee Metalfest ended after 2007 and has been silent ever since. Until this year, 2023. Thanks to Jamey Jasta of Hatebreed, who now owns the festival, this blast from metal's past is back to give fans 3 days of crushing non-stop metal mayhem and a few hangovers. Taking place at the Eagles-owned venue, The Rave, Milwaukee Metalfest is 3 days of neck-breaking brutality featuring some of the most crushing bands from the old school to the newcomers on the scene. It also happens to be a stone's throw away from Jeffrey Dahmer's place. You might know of him from that one Netflix show.
Told you. We're gonna hang out, watch a movie, take some pictures.
I had absolutely no idea this was even in this state until my friends explained why we were looking at an empty lot, saying that's where his apartment and his crimes were. The festival itself is across the street from the Ambassador Hotel, where Dahmer killed one of his first victims. Hey, what better place for a death metal festival than the neighborhood of America's most infamous cannibal? Thankfully, all the metalheads were very respectful about the whole thing. Another interesting thing I learned about Milwaukee is...
Actually, it's pronounced Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land.
Does this guy know how to party or what?
The lineup Milwaukee Metalfest pulled for its return was one of the most impressive I've seen this year in terms of American festivals. With metal legends and heavyweights Anthrax and Lamb of God as the main headliners, Biohazard also headlined the first night, but honestly, I've never once in my life heard anyone say, dude, Biohazard's awesome. But they were in fact also there. Legends like Obituary and Napalm Death played alongside newer, younger bands making a wave in death metal currently, like Undeath, Gatecreeper, and Frozen Soul. It also featured the return of a few fan favorites triumphantly making their way back to the stage. Fear Factory, fresh with a new singer stepping up to some big shoes to fill. The Black Dahlia Murder returns after the death of legendary frontman Trevor Strad, followed by Shadows Fall on one of their rare reunion shows. All three of these bands would get some fans to travel just for them. Add in the rest of this brutal lineup, and Milwaukee Metalfest becomes one of the top metal destinations of the year. And full disclosure here, but Milwaukee Metalfest actually hooked me up with a photo pass so I could get some excellent footage, as you can see here. I'll do my best to not let this cause me bias when reporting on this, but I thought I should let you all know. And also, thank Milwaukee Metalfest for allowing me to get these excellent shots, especially this one. Nice. Milwaukee Metalfest isn't a massive outdoor dirt fest in some field where people camp for several days. It's much more a series of badass underground shows that's 3 days long. The only part that's outdoors is this food truck and smoking area. There was a decent selection, however, and the food is very reasonably priced, I thought. This is also where metalheads can hang out between bands and bum cigarettes off each other while bragging about what bands they saw in 1988. Stepping inside, we immediately come to the first stage, this intimate little bar venue similar to any average bar you'd see a local band play to 10 people at. Directly from there is the mid-sized club where bands like Frozen Soul, Napalm Death, and Obituary decimated the place. Exiting here, you make your way up these stairs past another bar and up to the main ballroom where the biggest shows are held. I really like the dynamic of different venue sizes, and I also really liked that each stage was so easy to get to. No mile-long hikes to get between stages that take half an hour to trek through. It took maybe 3 minutes at the very most to get from stage to stage here. Next to the two smaller venues is also a pub to hang out in and brag about how many times you saw Slayer to other metalheads. And right when you entered the venue was this little merch area where you could get all your band shirts and patches. However, if I'm being honest, there were fewer vendors than I expected. It's not a major complaint or anything, but I do think the festival could have benefited from adding more. After going through all of them once, which really didn't take long, there wasn't a whole lot to check out between bands. Not much of an issue though, as the days were pretty stacked with back-to-back brutal lineups. Throughout the weekend, I managed to see a Legion, however you pronounce their name, open the ballroom, who were awesome. Warbringer, who were playing a great set until something apparently shit itself and died and shit again in the middle of the pit. Seriously, I don't know what the hell happened, but during Warbringer's set, there was some atrocious smell gagging the place. It didn't even smell like shit. It smelled like someone who had never heard of a shower before, died, had explosive diarrhea, which was then eaten by a pig with leprosy that also died and was then set on fire. I had to leave because it was so bad, and it wasn't just me. I saw lots of people leaving and holding their noses. Never had to leave a show due to the smell before. If you were at Milwaukee Metalfest, let me know if you also noticed this because I don't know what the hell that was. Thankfully, I could just walk downstairs to get away from it and went to see Defeated Sanity throw down in the club until it was time for the sleazy, dirty speed metal of midnight. This band is sick. They're like if Motorhead and Venom had prison sex in an abandoned Motel 6 on a mattress full of cigarette burns and blood. Grimy, hard-hitting bastard metal who know how to entertain a crowd. This band is always a blast live, and in a time of so much processed program corporate music, I really appreciate having these guys around. They make rock and roll fun again. Right after they finished, I had to jump upstairs for Goat Whore, and man, these two bands should play together all the time. I love that black and roll thrash, whatever you want to call it, sound, like Satan's punching you in the face while on day 2 of a 3-day Jack Daniels bender. That was a lot of going absolutely nuts, so I was glad the next band for me was Corrosion of Conformity. A band I think is great, but is a bit of a slower pace. Funny enough, Corrosion of Conformity are a band I sorta overlooked for most of my metal life. I always knew of them, but just never gave them a proper listen until I saw them live in 2019, and seeing them again here made me realize how much I've been screwing up by not listening to them more. God damn, they are heavy as shit. After them was Dying Fetus, who my friends really wanted to see, but unfortunately there were some sound issues that caused quite a delay. This started going into when Napalm Death were set to start on the club stage downstairs, and what do you know, they got delayed by sound issues too, which is something I should bring up. Throughout the festival, there were a couple times where bands got delayed, throwing the schedule off a bit. However, unlike a certain festival in Las Vegas I may have made a video on recently, all the bands were given the time to figure out the sound issues and everybody got to play their full sets. Nobody got cut short. Napalm Death eventually came on stage, and were just as insanely awesome as they always are. My friends and I were all saying how we've never seen Napalm Death play a bad show. They always destroy no matter where they're playing, and Barney is one of my favorite frontmen of all time. And yes, viewer, they did play their hit song You Suffer, which I will cover for you right now. Are you ready? Here it goes. So after Napalm Death was Dark Angel, who sounded really good and were crushing it. But for me, this was the end of day 1, and I had to get rested for much more because this festival was just getting started. Something I always recommend at festivals is being open to wandering into random shows of bands you've never heard of, which is how day 2 of the festival started for me. At the beginning of the day, I had time to kill and decided to wander into whatever band happened to be playing at the moment. That band was Phobophiliac, who I'd never heard of before, but damn, they impressed me. Extremely heavy death metal band that instantly grabbed my attention on their first song. Nothing particularly groundbreaking, but solid band that my friends and I kept talking about throughout the rest of the festival. Really glad I happened to stop in there. Then it was upstairs for Undeath, a newer band making waves in the death metal scene. I've been hearing a lot about them and have been wanting to check them out, and they were rad as shit. Classic sounding death metal that knew how to get the crowd moving and actually looked like they were having a good time. Especially the singer, when before one song, he told the audience to throw weed on stage, which a lot of people actually did. After them, next band for me was Terror. Hardcore legends who I've never really listened to much, but I do like some hardcore punk bands like Sick of It All, and I knew people go apeshit for Terror, which sounded like fun to me. And indeed it was. Terror tore that place apart. The crowd was going nuts with a lot of moshing, crowd surfing, and fighting invisible ninjas in the pit. After them on the main stage was the return of Fear Factory. After a weird falling out with former vocalist Burton C. Bell, Dino returns fresh with a brand new vocalist. From what I was told, apparently this dude was found on YouTube, then hired to be the actual frontman. Those are some big shoes to fill, but this guy stepped up to the plate and delivered like he'd been in the band for years. I love stories like that, and I'm super stoked for this dude. My friends are massive Fear Factory fans, and I'd asked them what they thought of the show afterwards, and they said that dude totally killed it. But Fear Factory unfortunately clashed with Frozen Soul, and there was no way I was going to miss them. After getting these shots, I ran downstairs to catch one of the heaviest and most thunderous bands of the whole festival. This was my first time seeing them, and holy shit, this band rules. They sound like if you were in a deep cave full of ice and were being eaten by that thing from the beginning of Empire Strikes Back. And as a vocalist, the singer's lows are epic. I really loved their show, and the place was going insane. After them, I needed a break and posted up in the balcony of the club for a bit. Jungle Rot was about to come on, who are always a solid band. I've seen them a bunch of times, and they always deliver. But man, I don't know what it was, but this was probably the best show of them I've seen. They grabbed me immediately. They sounded like a tank running over a small village in a forest. Major shout out to Jungle Rot. They absolutely destroyed. After them, it was back upstairs for the Black Dahlia murder, returning to the stage after the tragic death of very beloved frontman Trevor, a tragedy that shook the metal community. Everyone I've talked to who knew him only had great things to say about the guy. Many fans were excited yet also nervous about how they'd be now, but they completely crushed the the place. It was a celebration of the band and Trevor's legacy with fans going wild. I think they had one of the biggest crowds of the entire festival. Personally, I never really got that much into the band, but they really impressed me here, and I'm gonna go through more of their stuff now, and the fans I spoke to were very happy with their set. They were followed by Shadows Fall, who've been away for a number of years, and another one many fans were highly anticipating. Lots of jumping going on for these guys. But right after them was a legendary band I very much am into, Obituary. Florida death metal pioneers who I don't think have ever played a bad show in their entire lives. Obituary is like a good barbecue for me. I know exactly what to expect, and it never disappoints. I don't think they've ever been announced for a festival and people have gone, lame. And if they have, then fuck them. They headlined the club stage this night, which was cool, but it was packed in there. They really should have been on the ballroom. I've seen them play much bigger stages. But aside from that, they were brutal, they were heavy, and everyone left satisfied. Obituary were another band that got delayed, and their set started to bleed into suicidal tendencies upstairs. I love both bands, and they're both great live, but if I have to choose between one or the other, I'm going with Obituary. So I've missed a good chunk of Suicidal's set, but when I got up there, it was going off. They're always crazy live, and Mike Murr's inspirational street speeches never disappoint. They even brought up 2 kids from the crowd and let them run around during their set. It seemed like a lot of people brought their youngsters out to Milwaukee Metalfest, as I saw several running around having a blast. Which is pretty awesome to think about, how this event could have potentially shaped their lives, like me. After Suicidal Tendencies was the band that started it all for me. The first metal band I ever got into, and the first metal band I ever saw live, Anthrax. A band that I feel has only improved over time and gets better every time I see them. I was thinking how nuts it was how I've gone from seeing them on a DVD when I was 13 to being my first metal concert, seeing them several times since then, and now being in the photo pit filming them for a YouTube video with Scott Ian standing on top of me. I was so close I could hear him strumming his strings. They played an old school set, and when they started Caught in a Mosh, I felt that same rush that set a 13-year-old Wyatt down his metallic path. I also felt the uncomfortable tingle in my knee from when I broke my leg to this very song the last time I saw them. But let me just say I much prefer the photo pit these days. But they absolutely destroyed, and they even played Metal Thrashing Mad, which was awesome. Anthrax is a band that I know a lot of people aren't super into. They're kind of the less recognized of the big four of thrash. But Anthrax is like a fine wine. They get better with age, and too much of it will fuck you up. That was the end of day 2 for me. 2 down, 1 to go. The final day, I managed to catch Broken Hope decimate the place. After them was
Shish kebab, Shawshank Redemption, Chicago! You're out of there!
I have no idea how to pronounce this band's name, but they've been getting attention lately, and I've seen their jumbled name going around, so I thought I would check them out. And they were pretty sweet. Crushing death metal band that felt completely natural on such a huge stage. So yeah, check out Skuggerburger. After them was the only clash in the schedule I was actually really bummed about. An awesome band from LA making waves right now, Thrown into Exile, who are worth your attention, played at the same time as The Halo Effect, the band featuring members of In Flames and Dark Tranquillity. Both excellent bands you should listen to, but I had to go with The Halo Effect on this one. I loved their album, and it was really refreshing to have some Swedish melodic death metal at this festival. Michael is probably the frontman who smiled the most during the whole festival, and they were just really fun and sounded excellent. During their set, one of the kids at the festival kept crowd surfing and bolting through the crowd and doing it again, maybe 8 times. It was pretty awesome. Rock on, little metal soldier. A bit of a break to recover before getting right into the action for new death metal juggernauts, Gatecreeper. This band has been killing it lately. They're like the new Obituary, I'd say. Anytime they play, they bring the place down and look so natural doing it. And shout out to their drummer for rocking a Grill 'Em All shirt. Grill 'Em All is an awesome metal burger joint just outside of LA. That's the most badass restaurant ever. Anyway, Gatekeeper broke everyone's necks, and then I tried to see Unearth, who headlined the smallest stage, but it was so goddamn packed in there it was impossible to get in. So upstairs it was for Machine Head, a band I never really got the hype for, but I do know have a seriously diehard fan base. They do deliver live, and their fans make an effort to break their bodies going insane for them in the pit. That was an insane, blistering show, and Rob Flynn looked like he was having a ball. I forgot to mention earlier, he came out with Anthrax to do I Am the Law that night before. Machine Head delivered, and the crowd was intense. For the headbangers who've survived this far, there's one more band to go. the reigning heavyweight metal titans, Lamb of God. For those of you who don't know, Lamb of God shows are like the biggest backyard drunk redneck brawl on Christmas you've ever seen. They are another one I've seen many times, and they are also incapable of even playing bad shows. Since Slayer has called it quits, I feel Lamb of God has ascended to their position of a band whose fans go the craziest. Rightly deserved. Their combination of well-crafted metal and a singer with the energy of Sonic the Hedgehog makes them a standout act for sure. Pretty sure Randy sweated on me during one of these videos. I really respect the band as musicians, and Randy especially for being someone who takes his talent seriously while still keeping his punk rock spirit and energy alive. They played a mix of new and old songs with some exclusives from As the Palaces Burn, including 11th Hour, which was awesome. I love that song, and I've never seen them play that live. As expected, the crowd was totally calm and normal. I'm just kidding, they were insane with some of the biggest circle pits of the whole festival. Randy gave praise to Milwaukee Metalfest and Jamey Jasta, and brought up some past wild stories of when they played here last. They were an excellent choice to close out the festival, and for a band comfortably playing arenas now, it was great to see them in this setting. I mean, this place is still huge, but it felt more like their sacrament days in a way. Thus, Milwaukee Metalfest 2023 concluded, and it was a neck-breaking, voice-losing, feet-soaring great time. I really enjoyed this festival, and I think it's got great potential to being a top player in the American metal festival scene. Most of my only real complaints are just to up everything a bit more. A bit more vendors, a bit more food options, and it'd be nice to give bands longer sets too. It's not really a big complaint, and it wouldn't be fair to target Milwaukee Metalfest, as the majority of festivals bands play for less time than they normally would. But I will say the festival did feel like it went by really quickly. Most bands played about 25 to 40 minutes, and when it's straight blast beats and thrashing riffs, you can get so hyped up that it feels like it goes by really quickly. Again, I wouldn't say it's a complaint about the festival, but hey, maybe give everyone an extra 10 minutes or so. I don't know, I'm not in charge. And there were sound issues that delayed quite a few bands, but hey, I give them credit for figuring it out and still having the bands play their full sets. All in all, I had a blast at Milwaukee Metalfest. I really enjoyed it being a bit smaller and not a massive outdoor thing. If it continues this way, I do think it could become a staple of metal festivals, and I promise I'm not just saying that because they gave me a photo pass. It's rare in this country to get this underground of bands on a festival with big headliners like Lamb of God. You Europeans are gonna think that's crazy, but hey, America. So if you like the grimier side of metal and want to spend 3 days breaking your neck surrounded by like-minded and smelling headbangers, then I'd recommend you grab your camo pants and combat boots and make your way out to Milwaukee Metalfest for a damn good time. Before I go, I wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone for supporting this channel and enjoying my videos. It means a lot that so many people are enjoying them, and I greatly appreciate it. For more from me, check out my band Dark Insanity on Instagram. We're getting our songs together and getting ready to play live soon, so check out the link in the description of this video. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.